We're live.
We are live.
Hey, everybody. Hello. Check out my very non-Victorian glasses. We got 8 folks in here already. This is fantastic.
All right.
I'm going to let the barman explain where we are and what we're doing.
Well, welcome back to another Victorian Barroom live stream, second in a few days. We are up here right now at Musee de Venoge, working on a big film that they got a grant for, which is going to be beautifully shot. If you've been with us for a little while or you've gone back on our videos, you've been introduced to Venoge because this is where our last Christmas episode was, where we did a scene from A Christmas Carol and we made Smoking Bishop, which Scrooge made for Bob Cratchit once he was reformed. And what's that?
Ask people if they can hear us.
Can you hear us?
Just, y'all, please be our sound check. And we're bringing drinks in as we go, so don't mind us. And someone says, good day from Ontario. Wow.
Oh, well.
Until we hear otherwise, I'll assume people can hear us.
Yeah. And also you might have seen us on some of the Musée de Venoge YouTube channel, which if you haven't followed it, you need to follow it because they've got some really great stuff on there. We've done drinks on there. We've done Jacob and Charlotte, the owners of the cottage. This is kind of our living history home base up here in Venoge. This is Donna Weaver, who is the founder of the feast, who was her and her husband rescued this place. They had the vision to rescue back in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
1995. So it was slated for a...
it was going to be a burn exercise by the fire department. We started looking into it, finding out that there was more to it than that, and really didn't need burning. It needed restoration.
Yeah. There was the story was there was a log cabin underneath, right?
That was the big story, that there were big, beautiful logs. So we came in looking in the wall for those big, beautiful logs, knowing that they were going to be burned, and there were no logs. What we found was a timber frame with brick nogging. Mm-hmm. We had no idea what the style was. We started doing a lot of research. Who was the first owner? First owner was Louis of Musée. That's a clue right there.
Uh-huh.
He's one of those French settlers that came early. So, getting further and further into it, we discovered that it was a French colonial design. And then after we learned that, and we lived there, then this is not going to go down. We've got to save this place. Right. And we have, and we built it up, and we restored it as best we can. And we have a barn here. It's an outbuilding, which we use as a multi-service, multifunctional.
Yeah.
As we're multifunctioning today.
Right. Yeah, so seriously, we're in Vevey, Indiana, or back in those days, Vevey. In Switzerland County. We're not far from Cincinnati. We're not far from Louisville. And if you're ever in this area, you should really stop by. It's not like some of the historic houses that you see where it's somebody's mansion that got preserved. That's wonderful and all that, but this is a slice of regular everyday people's lives. And it's a sort of building that used to be very common in this region. And this is the one left, right?
Perhaps.
There might be some hiding under some clapboard somewhere.
Yeah. And what makes this interesting is we were able to discover Jacob Weaver's letters from 1813 to 1847. So we know what happened here. We know what happened to the family and how homesick he was. So we learned a lot about that, and it made the house livable to me. I saw it first as just a restoration project.
Right.
And now I see it as a restoration project of a person's life.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we've all, yes.
Sorry. I'm just going to come in with a couple technical things, folks. I just want to let people know. First of all, Musée de Venoge 200 years ago was probably a really peaceful place, and now we are next to a busy highway that they are currently rerouting the traffic by. And since it is very hot in July, we have the door open to where we are. If the sound of trucks and things becomes an issue, please do let us know. But if that's what you hear, that's what it is. We also do have a fan going. And also technically, we are in the visitor center where there is good Wi-Fi right now. They're discussing the building. In a little while, at some point, we will try to do a little field trip and see how far we can stretch that Wi-Fi and actually show you all what we're chatting about. So I'll get out and let the other bartender come in and let these two keep chatting.
I was going to say, this is the first time we've done a live stream or a show where I'm not the head bartender here at Venoge. I want to introduce Colonel Steve Abel, who is going to be the master of ceremonies today.
Thank you. And yes, I really am just this tall. All right. Brian was talking about a little restoration, or Donna was talking about restoration. Well, what a better way to do that on a hot day like today, especially if you're wearing wool, than with the official cocktail of the city of New Orleans, the Sazerac. Now, there's a lot of rumor and legend about this particular drink, and we're not going to waste a lot of time on it. I tend to talk a lot when making drinks. A good friend of mine who mastered this recipe went and did it at a fellow's house, and the fellow remarked, "Wow, you mixed that so much faster than Steve did." And he looked at him and said, "That's because Steve is all about the talking. I'm all about the drinking." So we're going to do a little bit of mixology here for you today with the Sazerac. And to begin, we have a teaspoon of sugar in our mixing glass. I'm mixing 2 Sazeracs to start, one for Brian, one for Amy, and then of course I'll mix one for Donna and I later. So into our teaspoon of sugar, I'm going to take Peychaud's bitter, which is the official bitter of New Orleans. Got it in a little nice decanter here. This is the barrel-aged bitters. And it has a very distinctive anise flavor to it. And I'm going to add 4 dashes per drink. I like my bitters. So there are 2 drinks here. And then just for a little extra spice, into this, I take 1 dash of Fee Brothers. Some people use Angostura bitters. I prefer Fee Brothers. Now I'm going to muddle all of this up. Now this takes a little bit of time here. So while we're muddling, we'll let Donna and Brian give you a little bit of history. Go ahead.
Now we did the movie here
Mhm.
to make a beginning.
Make the beginning.
It was a fantastic film. It follows the story of Jacob and Charlotte all the way through. Can they buy that on the
Turns
website?
out there's space in the
Oh,
frame.
we have about
Oh,
7 copies left.
7 copies left. Okay,
Get
yeah.
it fast.
Gotcha.
I like this job. I like this job.
Go get a copy of it.
So you, if they search for Musee de Venoge on YouTube, they'll find you, right?
Oh, yes.
That's Musee de Venoge, Venoge. You'll see some really great stuff out there, from dramatic interpretations of the history and the Tales from the Tavern series. Got a lot of great stuff you and Laura do with cooking.
How-tos, yes.
Yeah, how to. Thank you. Yes, this is To Make a Beginning. This is the film that we did. It's great. It costs $25.
Oh, no, I think it was very reasonable. 18. I
18.
think.
Well,
And all that money, by the way, folks, does help preserve Musée de Venoge.
The other
And if
thing-
you don't like the film, you can use it as a Frisbee for your dog or a coaster for your cocktail.
Yes. To further talk about what we're called Musée de Venoge, and Venoge is kind of an oddball name in this part of the world. The Ven part comes from Vintner. It was a river in Switzerland where the folks who settled here came from, and they named Indian Creek Venoge originally.
Gotcha.
It's on all the early legal documents.
Mhm.
It fell out of favor, and Indian Creek came back. But for our purposes, it was useful to go back to those early terms and go musée, which is museum. So we're museum of the Venoge.
One thing I like about this place too is, we've all those of us who've been involved in living history, there's all this focus on the big stuff. It's like the big historic sites, the big events, the ones with thousands and all that. And it's like we did that for a long time, and I think we were kind of worn out.
Yeah.
And we pop up with Venoge, and it's calm, it's friendly. No, there's not 1,000 people around. It's just
Except for the trucks. That drive.
except for the trucks that drive by. And yeah, and it really, I don't know. I think it's fed a lot of our history souls.
Well, there's a wonderful
Yeah.
saying that goes that civilization is like a stream with banks, and everybody notices the stream, and that's war and all the great events in the world. But it's on the banks where people build their homes, where civilization really begins. And the story of civilization is the story of what happens on the banks. And so this isn't a rich man's home. Jacob Weaver, in the end of his life, really pretty much lost everything. But it's a story of every one of us.
Mhm.
And that's what makes the story so relatable, because it is a story of you. So when you come here, you sense the common man, the common woman, the average everyday American. And that is your history. And that is something that you all share in. And history is an extremely important subject. It's like the rudder of a ship. It's behind you, but it steers you to where you're going.
Right.
And if you throw it away, you're adrift and at your own peril.
You're here.
Mr. Reagan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just in time, the thunder came. I paid a lot of money for that.
We rescheduled the whole shoot today.
We
because
did.
It's supposed to rain, but it has not yet.
All right, we've muddled our sugar now.
Yeah, the whole reason we're here doing this is we were going to film all this other stuff for them, but it was supposed to be pouring rain, and we haven't
Yeah.
seen a drop.
No, and we haven't.
No,
We sent some of the cast home. It's just, yeah, Stevie really made some good choices today, which is why Stevie's 5 o'clock somewhere. That's all I can say. All right, so now we are mixing 2 cocktails right now. So into this, I'm going to pour 4 ounces of our Sazerac rye. If I can't get Sazerac, Ryan, it's very difficult where I live in southeastern Georgia.
You're a substitute.
Yeah, can't get it. I'll use a Rittenhouse rye, which is a little higher octane. That's 100 proof. This is a 90 proof rye. All right, now I've added our rye into our mixing glass, into which has our muddled sugar. Now I'm going to take the ice, which hopefully we have a little bit left of, because it is brutally hot in here. And we're going to put that in there, and we're going to chill this down. We're going to stir it gently for about 30 seconds. And then after this sits and chills, it's called drawing the spirit out. So we're going to draw the spirit out of this particular glass by mixing or chilling. All right, and you can feel it with your hand that the glass is. There we go. And you can see that there is a reddish color to the drink. Now we've taken our glasses. We've been chilling these. One of the essential parts of this drink is your glass is chilled. I'll generally put mine in the freezer. We did that with these earlier. And then you fill it with water and ice. That allows the cold to penetrate through the rocks glass. You want a glass with a good solid bottom. Donna, would you pour that into that pitcher? And now pour that over there. There we go. All right, now we have our two chilled glasses. And into this, we're going to take a little bit of absinthe. I really enjoy this particular brand of absinthe, do Brian and Amy. And we're going to have something special in October that Donna will tell you about that regards absinthe. But we'll get to that in a minute. So I'm going to take a little bit of this absinthe now.
This is St. George. We've met this on the channel before.
Just enough. And what we're going to do is we're going to coat the inside of our glass. All right? And you can see that the absinthe is beginning to lush.
Yes, it is.
And it has a very wonderful aroma. You can smell the anise flavor in it. It's interesting when you go to New Orleans, you watch some of the bartenders make this. There's sometimes they'll mix it behind their back. Literally, you can do a backward hand motion. I've seen them throw it up into the air and catch it, and they rinse the glass. Now, most people, it says, well, throw the absinthe away. Horrors.
Yeah.
So since these are your glasses, you can drink that absinthe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, then set them back on the table here.
Delightful.
Mm.
All right, that's St. George's good
Oh,
stuff.
yes, it is.
All right, now we're going to take and we're going to strain our Sazerac into our glasses. They've wasted a little bit, but that's okay. There's a whole bottle. All right, and in Sazerac, the saying is the glass is always half full. The key final ingredient to this drink is a lemon peel. You want a little bit of lemon zest. Now, you can have a lemon peeler and you get a nice curly Q lemon. The problem with that becomes you get pith with the lemon. And if that goes into your drink, it gives the drink a very bitter flavor. I prefer to use this potato peeler that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
I love that, yeah.
that we used when y'all
Yeah.
taught us how to make whiskey punch.
Yeah.
And that gets the zest out, leaves the pith behind, and leaves you nothing but that wonderful lemon flavor. So we take that lemon peel, we express it over the glass, rub the rim of the glass, and then Brian can take that, and if he wants, put it into his glass.
Thank you, sir.
Hold on, Miss Amy.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
seriously, guys, for lemon stuff, you don't need to go any more fancy than the cheapest vegetable peeler at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It'll do just fine.
I think that's what we use in the bar room.
It is.
Yeah, there it is. Well, and part of that is because we want to make sure that people are able to see what we're making and have the tools to make it at
Yeah.
home.
See what you actually do. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Steve,
Enjoy. Cheers.
the bartender.
Thank you.
Donna?
Oh my gosh.
And folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
We've got a few coming in here, actually. Let me just enjoy this here for a second.
I never make these at home because I never do it this good.
For later.
This is amazing.
Is that all about the drinking, not
Oh
about
my
the
gosh,
talk?
Steve, that's so
Is it
good.
good?
That is
So
just
good.
amazing.
Okay, first of all, we have a Victorian bar room first here. Santa Claus is in the chat.
Thank goodness.
And I asked if this was going to keep us off the naughty list, and he said yes.
Well, good.
Oh, Santa, a case.
Santa baby.
Santa, baby. Yes.
Great question here from Davina Duckworth for you, Donna. And we may not know this now. wanting to know if Venoge would have originally have had an ice house.
We don't think so.
We don't think
Really?
so. Okay.
Okay.
No, we don't, we have no evidence of it.
Okay. Because that's something we talk about a lot on the channel, is that a lot of people seem to think for some reason that like nobody would have had access to ice. We get all of these incredulous questions like, well, where would they have had ice? Like, got you now. And some places we've gone have had ice houses. Locust Grove has an ice house. There's one at Heritage Village.
Well, when we worked at Appomattox, my wife, Cinda, was a park ranger there, worked for the National Park Service. We were at Appomattox for years, and they had an ice house there. And
Okay.
It was wonderful. You go down into it,
Yeah.
still nice and chill.
Well, the thing is, too, just because there wasn't one present at Venoge doesn't mean there wasn't ice available locally.
Yeah, there is
So-
ice available elsewhere.
Yeah.
There are other ice houses in the county, so.
So there would have been ice houses that were doing business, dealing to
Yeah.
people.
I don't know. I'm not gonna say I do know because I don't.
No, it's a really interesting question, and I think the more we dig into it, we are finding that it is one that the basic answer is that yes, ice was pretty more widely available than most people realize, but it seems like depending on where you were in the country and which decade you're talking about, the story of who got it and how definitely varies.
Well, you see by the 1830s, you do see a lot of ice. And
Yeah.
for example, on the Mississippi River, by the 1840s and 50s, in Dubuque, where I used to live, they had the actual ice harbor. And that was a part of the Mississippi that came in. It was a harbor. And they would close the gates and it would freeze during the wintertime. And then they would go and saw the blocks of ice out and ship that. Of course, having fished in the Mississippi, ain't no ice from the Mississippi River going
We
east
never
or
said
west.
it was good ice.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is to keep in mind is there's kind of a myth of total self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
And that typically didn't happen. It's like some farms do some things, other farms do other things, and you kind of trade within that local network. You know, like when we've been at the distillery at Locust Grove. I mean, all the farms in the area didn't have a distillery. People brought their stuff there to distill, things like that. So some people might have ice houses where other people didn't. It's just kind of how the economy. It wasn't necessarily a cash economy of the period it worked.
Right, bartering.
Yeah, exactly.
I like bartering.
Yes, bartering is good.
Well, if I can interject for a
Yes.
second, we're talking about cash and everything like that. If you all have watched our series, Tales from the Tavern, of which Brian and Dakota are eye candy back here, we have to pay him extra. We bring him on the street, so we can't do that.
We've got an off-screen actor here who's
Yes.
also helping us with lights and air and stuff.
But finding cash, especially here in this town, in the 1820s, 30s, was extremely difficult. And we have a special episode that's going to premiere this Sunday, the 16th of July, with Brian in it. Amy was my assistant director. Dakota plays, well, I'm not going to give his character away.
Okay, Dakota, you gotta at least come on.
Yeah,
come on,
say hi.
say hello.
They know
Say hello.
like
Yeah.
who we're talking about. Get
Yeah.
in there next
Okay,
to
for
me.
those of you, this used to be my vest. I used to be that thing.
This is Dakota Phillips, ladies and
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I got
Dakota
happily
Phillips.
married. Yes, Dakota Phillips. Dakota does a wonderful job. And if you've watched any of our Tales from the Tavern series, you've seen it. All right, Donald Lee Weaver. We're going to go ahead now. I can't wait to see you drink this.
This is delicious.
The price of admission.
For folks who are just tuning in, I think we should also remind them where we are in terms of a historic site and specifically at the moment. So we are at Musee de Venoge, which is this incredible historic site, a museum in Beebe, Indiana, in Switzerland County. We have been interviewing Donna a little bit, who was the brainchild behind making it happen. We can keep talking to her as well. Specifically because I am seeing some questions in the chat. At the moment, we are in the visitor center where the Wi-Fi, the 21st century witchcraft is working really well. One of the things I do love about this site is that there is this lovely visitor center, which also is pretty atmospheric, and that we can actually use it nicely to extend some of our activities. Once we're done in here, at some point, if folks are hanging in, we might try to take a little walk and at least show people the cottage, and we could try to see if the Wi-Fi gods want to let us inside, or we might save that for another time once I've figured out how hotspots work, partly because it's also strict right now for filming.
Yeah.
But we will at least give you an exterior of what we're talking about. But there is in the link, or in the description, there is a link to a fantastic video on the Musée de Venoge YouTube channel about the restoration.
Yeah.
If you are at all tangentially slightly interested in history, and let's face it, if you're here, we're more than slightly interested in history, it's about 15 minutes long and it's incredible. You will love it.
Check it out. This was I would call this more of a grassroots restoration.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's really neat what they got done here. And
The thing that's truly amazing, when you look at the video and you see the condition that this was in, my idea of restoration would have been a can of gasoline and a box of matches.
Well, that was somebody's
That
idea.
was
Right,
the
that's
original
right.
idea.
No, it was going to be used as fire department practice.
Yeah. Donna won't drink this, but I will.
do we have any other
Didn't
questions?
give me a chance.
Somebody has a great question, actually. For Donna, how populated would this area have been at the time this house was built?
I think the town was under 1,000 people.
Under 1,000.
Easily.
Yeah.
But it was in the 20s, when the house was built in 1828, but we're portraying 39 for obvious reasons. But by that time, Vivi was becoming more of a center of boat building and trade.
Mhm.
Madison overshadowed it eventually, but Vivi had to try it. Vivi later on in the 50s and 60s became quite well known, thank you, Mr. Abel, for hay. It supplied hay all up and down the river to New Orleans and did quite well.
Well, and Vivi still is a great little town to visit also. There's the Pleasance Rose is an 1880s bed and breakfast. It's a great place to stay. Roxano's Pizza, you couldn't get any better than that. There's Roxy's Bar, a great little vintage bar, some antique shopping, good diners. So coming to Vivi, staying there, seeing all the little sites, seeing Venoge is a great little trip.
Well, first of all, here's to Brian, Amy, Donna, and poor Dakota, who's over there just jonesing in the corner.
Dakota doesn't drink, so we're not leaving him out.
Actually, at some point we are keep
I
saying
got
we're going to
good
do a
stuff.
mocktail episode because we've been finding some good stuff.
That's good.
It's
That
delicious.
is very
Steve.
good.
You're so-
This is a
good.
balance of the absinthe and the
Mhm.
rye and
That's
the
right.
sweet and the bitters.
And the bitters.
And the bitters, that's- yeah.
That's the key.
And I don't think I ever nail it this well.
It's now, after we wrap, and folks, after we wrap and we cook supper, we still have more filming to do. We gonna have more cocktails. And then Stevie is gonna break out the barrel-aged bitters for those.
Now, Steve, the last live stream we did, which you were at, this is the guy that I asked before I explained this. I was like, is he still in here? Because I might be about to anger him. What did you think of my explanation of the 1860s whiskey cocktail being the root of both the Sazerac
I
and
thought-
Manhattan?
I thought it was very interesting, all right?
And David Wondrich actually also made that
Yeah.
point, and I got to thinking about it, and everything started clicking in my head.
Well, when you read David's book, and where he dives into the history of the Sazerac, and you begin to take the legends that go, like, oh, it was a cocktail because they served it in the cockatiel or whatever,
Right.
the egg cup. No, they didn't. It's like a lot of things about New Orleans. It's all veneer, all right? And so I think that's a very balanced interpretation of it. And it's interesting to see, for example, like let's take for a martini for a second, where you have the Martinez,
Right.
all right, which is a variation on that. But the Sazerac, they all have a basic building formula, and it's just you take from one, you add to another. What we're concentrating here on this drink is the spice.
Right.
That's what we want there. And then if you go to a Manhattan, you'll get the sweetness, of course, from the vermouth, and you get a little bit of spice if you're using a rye or a bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we have had so much fun with both Brian and Amy in our Tales from the Tavern series. Amy is just, I'm going to sing her praises. Amy doesn't get a lot of credit sometimes, but she is a fantastic assistant director. It allows me, when I get to act in it, I can turn it over to Amy, and she does just, I have complete trust and faith in her. Donna, on the other hand, not so much.
Thank you so much. What?
Nothing. How's your drink?
Edit the next one.
Yes, edit the next one yourself, Abel. Yes, and
She handles the
Donna,
editing.
Donna does the editing. And the only thing that saves our business relationship is I live in Southeast Georgia. She lives up
And I
here.
can't.
And we edit via Zoom. And yeah, she just can't wrap her hands around my throat. My wife will come downstairs when we're on these Zoom edits. She goes, I don't understand why she works with you.
Well, I gotta say too, I mean, Donna and Steve, the things we've done there, I think it allowed us to rediscover what we saw in living history in the first place.
Yes.
You know, when everything else was kind of wearing us
Right.
out.
You're right. I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
Mhm.
You get closer to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think that's one of the things you wanted to cover today. And as Amy had mentioned, it's hotter than blazes out here. And of course, being in the Ohio
The
River
wig's about to
Valley,
come off.
yeah, mine came off years ago. Being in the Ohio Valley, you like humidity. I live on a barrier island, all right, in southeast Georgia. You like humidity, you'll love it. But you get a feeling for today, lashed up in these clothes the way we are. And of course, well, how did they survive? Well, they were used to it. They didn't have air conditioning to relate to. But as all of us will tell you with the living history genre, you experience the past, and the curtain is torn aside just for the briefest of moments, because you can't remain in the past. You are a present day person, but you understand, and that veil is drawn aside, and for the briefest of seconds, you actually can see the past. You can experience, and you understand it, and you understand why it should be preserved, why places like this are so valuable, why historical markers. Drive down any street, a road in the United States, there's a bronze or a metal marker. Stop and read it. It'll draw you into a story, because that's what these are. These are stories. In the early day, history was something that was told around a campfire. All right? Today, it's passed on in books, but you're all a part of it. And we hope that by seeing these programs that Brian and Amy do on their channel, or that Donna and I do here on our channel, draws you a little closer into history and makes you realize what a glorious past you as America have, and something to be treasured and shared and learned from.
Absolutely.
That's what history is for, is to learn from. The past is the past. It can't be changed, but the future is yet to be made. You are part of that future, and you use the rudder in the ship, the history, to guide you to the present and the future.
Beautifully said.
He does belong.
No, that's beautifully said.
Like Joe, my buddy Joe said, he's all about the talk.
No,
He's
that
all
was
about the truth.
Well, and one thing we wanted to touch on here Steve, your career in living history goes back to the 70s?
I started in 1979. So we're talking now, what is this?
This is 2023.
Yeah, it's a long.
That was a long time.
You were part of the Last of the Mohicans production.
Yeah, that was 1992.
Right.
Yes. So, and I also killed Davy Crockett in the movie Alamo: The Price of Freedom, and then be the guy that tries to blow up the powder mac. We played everything in that movie.
So you've seen many phases of living
Yes.
history, an evolving, set of standards, quality, all that. It's like we've got a lot more information at our fingertips right now, as far as sources go, primary sources. What are some of the most memorable things when you're talking about going from 1979 to 2023? What are some of the best moments in there that you've seen?
Okay, I actually have quite a number, but I'm not going to go into a lot. But I think one of the most amazing moments I ever had in my living history career was with my wife, Cinda, and I. This was before we were married. And I had sponsored this total immersion living history event in Brackettville, Texas, on the old John Wayne Alamo movies.
Oh, wow.
All right, it was Alamo 162.
That's
you know
awesome.
what the best part of Brackettville, Texas is at night, folks? You can't see it. Okay, it is not pretty country. But that's where Wayne decided to do the movie. And the set was there. And we got permission to use the set. And it was total immersion, meaning you came in with what you carried on your back or whatever. And there were no frou-frous, no frills, nothing. And on Friday night, we had done the arrival of the Mexican army. And the Alamo defenders were retrograding back into the mission complex. And so here's this stream of men going back into the complex, and everybody setting up their shebangs or flies against the walls. There were no tents inside. The people bedrolls up against the walls. And that night, it was just brilliant moonlight and starlight. And the sky in West Texas is truly, it's something amazing to see. And Cinda and I was commanding the garrison, and Cinda and I went up. I took her along with me and walking the post. We go up to the back of the chapel, the apse of the chapel, and there's a ramp, and the artillery pieces are up there. So the artillery pieces are all silhouetted against the moonlight and the starlight. And they're the bodies of the guys all wrapped up in their blankets trying to get some sleep. And she looked at me and says, you know, if it ended now, it would be worth it. She was right.
Yeah, it just occurred to me, my first real event was 1999. Exactly 20 years after.
Oh, Cinda is not here today. By the way, though, Cinda's an incredible historian, incredible member of the history community. I wish we could have her here, but Steve's wife, the things she has made, the detailed knowledge she has about, she went off to me one time with passionate detail about the stuffing of period furniture, and she had learned it, and it was just incredible. I love just listening to both of you talk.
Good, because you'll never get a word in edgewise with either.
Do we have any questions?
We have a few things.
Yeah.
Let's see. First of all, y'all, I can't take it anymore.
Whoa, hold on. I'm wearing a girdle here.
Yeah, I've done my time. The hair is
Folks,
coming
we
off,
were
so-
supposed to be doing another scene after this. Oops, I guess that went down.
I can't anymore. You know what? I'll put it back on. I forgot how many pins.
Cinda,
I had.
get up here. We'll put you in the costume. Dye your hair. You'll be
And look, here's the deal. Fake hair is so period correct, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. A lot of these women did not. Oh, I see. I got a pin in there. Did not have it growing out of their heads, but you always just.
Okay, pay no attention to that.
If you're familiar with Locust Grove, the oldest daughter moved out to Washington D.C. with her husband, who was the adjutant general, right, of the Army, Jessup.
Yep.
And her baby. This was in the 1820s. Her baby daughter's favorite game when guests came over was getting up on the rich ladies' laps and tugging on their curls to see whose was real.
Oh.
Yeah, that's period documentation.
So, what's our questions?
Oh, let me get back in here. Now I don't know how to work a mobile phone. It's bad. Let's see.
Well, if any of you have any questions on mixology, please shoot them up here to Brian and I. All right, Amy.
The live
Ron?
chat has moved. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Sorry, I'm not the person who should be working with technology. I had it going till everything.
Dakota, isn't that your job? You never work in this business again. That's all.
We're live. We get back in here. Loading it back. Here we go. A chat. Okay, let's see. We go way back to the top here. People asked about ice. I think we answered that. Population, where we are.
Yep.
By the way, Russ says, honey, you need to actually put together a set of bar recipes from the early 1800s, or from the area of the 1800s.
My intention is to do a book soon.
It'll happen.
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting around to it.
Somebody's on the road to French Lick, by the way.
Oh, Marco was going to French
That's who it
Lick,
is.
and
Captain
Lori.
Marco and
Yes,
Lori.
happy birthday to his wife, Lori.
Yeah.
They're spending her birthday over there.
I
Maple
need
Springs or
2 bottles of the Old Cliffy Hoosier Apple Brandy.
So tell them where they need to go.
Yeah, two spirits of French Lick.
Yeah, and get the Old Clifty Hoosier Apple Brandy.
Yeah, I can't find it anywhere.
And they say rain check for 2 Sazerac, Steve.
Okay, and Marco, all right? If he needs that, please bring it. Otherwise, you never work in another episode again either. And Marco played Captain Amos Beacon in one of our.
Okay.
And Lori is also one of our camera operators.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Wonderful,
lie.
wonderful people. And also, Marco is going to be appearing in the special film. And if I can plug that for a second.
Yes.
All right. Donna applied. Well, Donna, tell them about the Americana grant.
We applied for a grant from Americana Corner to make a video about an intro to Venoge. So we're working on that right now, but it's not a standard. The house was built in and lived here and blah, blah, blah. We're doing it, all the facts are in there, but it's in a story form. So that's what Captain Marco's in, and you can probably.
Brian and Amy. What we tried to do with this story is, I'm a big one for, again, using history and looking into the past and quotes. And in fact, there's plenty of John Wayne Alamo quotes in a lot of my projects. But there's a great quote by the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who says, no man steps into the same river twice, because it's not the same river, and he's not the same man. And so what I did is I took Heraclitus's quote and looked at Jacob and Charlotte Weaver when they sold this house in August of 1839, and how the country had changed from when they first came here in 1813. And it's a story of the old generation yielding to the new, and how they each see the country and what the country means to them, what opportunity it presents. And so we take the story on the day Jacob Weaver and Charlotte sell their house, the house they built from scratch, to a man named Isaac Stevens, portrayed by Dakota Phillips back over there, who will eventually become an extremely successful druggist and a very successful citizen in the town of Venoge.
Newspaper man.
And a newspaper man too. And how he sees this world, how he sees America. And we go through the little short vignettes of the lives of everyday citizens, and it all ties together at the end. We're going to be releasing that. It was supposed to be a visitor-centered film. That's what the grant had told us. But the joy of our YouTube channel is you can visit Venoge 24/7.
Yeah.
That's it. And so we're going to premiere this at Country Christmas, which is Saturday.
First Saturday in December.
First Saturday in
First Saturday,
December.
okay.
And we
Yeah.
hope that Brian and Amy
Mhm.
are going to be there to tend the Eagle Tavern.
Second Saturday.
What you can't see,
Okay. Yeah.
what you can't see here is we have the Eagle Tavern sign behind Brian, but this is not the Eagle Tavern. This is the Hayloft Tavern. We actually have two taverns on site. The Eagle Tavern is located inside the house. And Brian and Amy are going to run that particular tavern. And Brian has promised me that he will not throw smoking bishop all over the walls of my bar.
There were some spills last year.
Spills. It looked like a Jackson Pollock painting behind the bar.
We're
That was
moving
fun.
a lot of things really fast, and a lot of it's wine based, and so yeah.
Well, so we had to constantly be heating wine over the fire, which, by the way, was very cool. Because we had these
That was
made-up
great.
punches that we were heating over the fire in batches and serving to people.
Let me emphasize that the wine that you're drinking was literally heated on the fireplace just then.
And about a month earlier, I think Samson Historical had a sale, and some very silly woman had said, "Honey, we don't need a third one of those pots."
We did.
And there we were.
We did, yes.
The Christmas, I was like, "Well, you
But
don't
now we
look
have one.
great right now. A third one of those copper pots from Samson."
Yeah. Samson's, yeah, they're copper pots or what? No, brass pots.
I think it was ordered like the day after that.
Yeah.
But it is wonderful. They do such, Brian and Amy are so knowledgeable in the period mixology, which is why their channel, I think, is so good.
Well, thank
I
you.
enjoy watching. And so, if you can, please come up and join us.
Yeah.
And we are, can I announce the October thing now? I'm not a member of the board.
Please do.
I intend to. All right. No, we are going to do a very special event in October. Brian has been working with Alan Bishop. So as a segue, why don't you tell them what you and Alan have been working on?
So going way back to where some of you guys met us, it was the Small Farm Distillery Project at Locust Grove. One of the neatest things I ever got to be a part of in my life. But at the opening day of that, Alan Bishop showed up. I had no idea who he was. He's the
That was where Townsend did a couple of videos.
Yeah, Townsend did 2 videos with us. The second one had Alan in it. But Alan, he's one of the most knowledgeable distillers. He is a true artisan. He won't allow himself to be called master distiller, which tells you that he is really a master distiller. But all that aside, he's done some incredible research. And one of the first things back in 2017 that he told me about was what he had uncovered about absinthe being made in Switzerland County, Indiana, in the 1830s. Prior to that, he thought he would be the first Hoosier to make absinthe, but it had been done in the 1830s right here in Switzerland County. And so he said, would you guys want to collaborate on something with this? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's like, I love absinthe.
Two things coming together.
Exactly. Now, I didn't think it didn't even enter my mind that we'd have the opportunity to work with that at Locust Grove and that distillery. We knew about whiskey and brandy, but then we're kind of merging these stories. And so we got together with Locust Grove, Spirits of French Liquor, where he works, Musee de Venoge right here, and Kentucky Artisan Distillery in Crestwood, Kentucky. And we did all these different pieces to recreate this absinthe that was produced here in the 1830s. We started talking about it in 2017. We started working on it in 2020. And it's finished. It's been finished for a little while. We're just trying to wrap up the documentary. And so that leads us to where Alan is coming to Venoge for the absinthe program.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's how the genus of this idea started. Well, I have a friend of mine who, by the way, his name is Mark Miller. He provided the Sazerac today. he is donating his pit saw to Musée de Venoge. So we thought, well, let's build an event around the pit saw.
I love pit saws.
You gotta get out more. All right. And so we came up with the idea to call the event Trades, Taverns, and Tippling. So you come out here on that weekend, and we're going to have all these trades.
October 7th.
October the 7th and into the 8th, because I know the military guys who wrote and said that they wanted to come, they wanted to stay over. So we'll be demonstrating period trades, the pit saw. You said Kyle Willard wanted to come and do
Ooh.
We're not sure.
We don't know, but we're hoping that he's going to come.
If he does, his pewterware is on the table on the set of John Adams, the miniseries, and he is the best swordsmith
And he would
alive.
be pouring spoons.
Yes,
Right,
he
yeah.
will be pouring
That's really
spoons.
Yeah.
cool.
So we have that. I will not be demonstrating tailoring. I will be just,
Drinking.
no, I will be supplying these two, I hope, who will be running the bar, and I'll be running all the logistics. And so you can come out to the event. You can participate in the trades, the pit saw. You can watch the guys drill. The tavern will be open. So you can go into the tavern. And then Alan is going to do a lecture.
That's a ticketed event.
What he did. That part is a ticketed event. And if we can, we'll be sampling that absinthe. So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Mhm.
Fall is an absolute,
Yeah.
it sure beats now.
That's not
If you
good.
stand still, it's not.
Yes, if you stand still.
No, it's bad.
Oh, and by the way, folks, if you ever go to a living history event and you ask those people wearing wool or heavy dresses, aren't you hot in that? And they say, oh no, I'm more comfortable than you are. Don't believe it.
Well, the funny thing is about these films is we were here in the dead of winter in linen suits because that was that had continuity with what we've been doing
Right.
before. I sat there in the house freezing to the bone, and now we're here in the middle of July in wool suits because that has continuity.
It's the price you pay.
It's the price we pay. It's the price we pay for history. All right. Do we have any questions that anyone might
We
have?
do. We have actually a couple of good ones. Somebody was asking, saying there are many anise flavored liqueurs. What is it about absinthe that sets those apart from anything else that's anise flavored?
That's a good question because my only knowledge of anise flavored things,
Mhm.
aside from Springerlee's, the cookie, is the absinthe. So that I cannot address.
And absinthe started out as more, it goes back at least to the 18th century in the Valley Traverse. And I got that from Alan. Just to give credit where credit is due. But it is a very heavily botanically infused alcohol. So the way they did it back in the 18th and into the 19th century was you would have what you called solid state distillation. You had just as much botanical as you did spirit. It's a mess. Not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody can do it. And so you've got there's a lot of other stuff that goes in with it. It's not necessarily the same stuff every time. Grand Wormwood is kind of the thing, the main thing, I guess, the central characteristic thing in the initial maceration, and the petite wormwood goes into secondary maceration, which gives it the green flavor. But you've got a much more heavy botanical infusion in that than you would in something else that was just anise flavored. There was maybe, and that's just kind of spitballing. I hope I'm saying that right.
Well, is
I'm
that
not a
higher alcohol
scientist.
content too than
That-
like
well,
Paranormal?
that's true. That's something to look at.
Yeah,
is
you're
the
looking at-
alcohol content.
At least 120%.
Yes, 120.
Yeah, it was never meant to be served straight. When the phylloxera epidemic hit the European wine crops, it's wiped them out, and that's why they switched to absinthe because it was available. It had been known, well before that, but it's like okay, we don't have access to the amount of wine we used to, but we've got absinthe. There's our afternoon tipple. It was prepared so that when it's just prepared, it's basically like drinking a glass of wine. Now it has somewhat of a different effect than wine does. It's much more of a lucid kind of alcoholic effect than wine is. But yeah, it's that heavy, that kind of heavy infusion of botanical that I think is the difference between something else.
And I think the other thing that makes at least absinthe that I consider and my wife considers very interesting is the ritual that you construct around it. See, you just open a bottle of whiskey, you pour the whiskey and maybe you mix it. But with Sazerac, this is with absinthe, the spirit is hiding within here. when you drink or mix this, your job is to draw forth that spirit. And that's what the whole ritual does. For example, we have an absinthe fountain with the spoons and sugar cubes from the absinthe
All
house.
fun.
And we've done the thing, put on the silk bathrobes and all this stuff and the candlelight. And then we need a life. All right. And then you drip that through the sugar cubes and you lush.
Yeah.
All right. One of the most amazing things I ever saw was at a living history event at Fort McHenry. And I was commanding the garrison. And we were inside my marquee and we had this oil chandelier in there. And there was a gentleman, his name was Steve and Donna from Baltimore. He just a very talented man, poet, singer. And he's very tall. And so he had taken the glass of absinthe and he had a glass of ice water. And he stood in the marquee in front of everybody and put that glass with an oil lamp behind it so you could see the light shining through, and then poured the water in, and you watched it lush down through it, and he recited a poem. Again, you talk about that living history moment, you go, man, this is too cool for school. I mean, it really is.
Well, and all of this dovetails back to a project that's going to appear on both of our YouTube channels soon. And somebody did have a question in here, Russ, who I believe is from Canada, asked about the difference between our area and the area north of Kentucky. So we are actually just north of Kentucky.
Just
We're literally just on the other side of the
Yeah.
river here in Switzerland County. But something that's really specific to Switzerland County is, if you want to just reference back to the documentary you're working on.
Oh, well, this was settled by French Swiss. And it's kind of interesting because for us, we live in Oldham County, Kentucky. We travel up here. It's not a long trip. It's less than an hour, but it was really neat for me because I was working on the distillery project at Locust Grove, I think, when we discovered you guys.
Right.
And we were very much into Kentucky distilling history and all that, whiskey, brandy, that kind of thing, and how closely that tradition and that custom can change. That was really remarkable to me. It's
Well,
less
the river joins, but it also divides.
exactly.
Yes.
It joins also divides, so it's less than an hour by car, but you've got a completely different distilling tradition here.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
because it's French Swiss as opposed to primarily
Well, Kentucky-
English and Germans.
Kentucky's early.
yeah.
Yeah, Kentucky is state 1792,
Yeah.
correct? Right.
Yep.
This doesn't become a state until 16, even though settlement here in
95.
Switzerland County
Yeah.
is,
Yeah,
is early.
possibly earlier.
Yeah, the town is 1813.
Yeah. Well, so
but that's
Louisville-
incorporated.
Yeah, and Louisville been founded in 1778 during the Revolution.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole
Yeah,
different
so,
ballgame.
so you have a lot of early
And the
history here.
name says a lot.
And,
Right.
Yeah.
and 1812, and 1812 is
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite time periods. A lot of 1812 history in this particular area. And most people, my family, the Abold family, settled here in Indiana in 1822 on the Shawnee Reserve.
I never knew that.
Yes, which is now Fountain County, Indiana. And so they had fled Napoleon, in 1807 and landed in Philadelphia, lived in Ohio during the Mississippi campaign,
Wow.
in Dayton. And then when that land opened up in 1822, they're one of the first 6 families that moved into Richland Township. And so I always had that history.
Uh-huh.
All right. And then I had my mother, who was a first generation American.
Huh.
Her parents had come from Italy, but they were Americans. And so you had this melding of two cultures making America. And it helped lead me into a lot of the different things that I've done. And you just see the amazing amount of history that's in this part of the country.
Yeah.
And Brian and Amy had said that most people, you just don't
Don't think of it,
realize.
yeah.
Because we used to go to the farm up there in Fountain County.
Mhm.
It was soybean fields and cornfields. And we didn't know there was the Kickapoo Indian tribe, all of these things up there. And Indiana has truly an amazing
Mhm.
history that it's more than the Indianapolis 500.
Well, and that was the neat thing I thought about Switzerland County as well. They brought a winemaking tradition with them. And to my knowledge, they were successfully making wine here in Switzerland County way before they had viable
Yes.
wine grapes in Kentucky.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Well, see, they settled first at the first vineyard in Kentucky.
Okay.
That failed.
Yeah. Well, there was a growing pains there.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know that they ever actually got wine off of that
Yeah.
property, but when they were here, they had a vintage in 05.
Yeah. And John Cron at Locust Grove was telling,
In Kentucky.
in Kentucky, was telling Jessup that he was going to serve him the first glass of Kentucky made wine. I never did. That was the 1840s.
There you go.
So,
Well, speaking of Kentucky,
yeah.
all right, Henry Clay, the great compromiser, of course, the war hawk. All right, he wanted Vevey wine and Louis Boussier, who actually is related to Charlotte. It's amazing how these families.
That's who they bought the property from, isn't it?
They buy this property from him. He was a shady character. He was a shady character. Let's not. Anyway, he was going to provide wine for Henry Clay.
Mhm.
And so they provided wine for Henry Clay. And they were having they were going to open the bottle. And they opened the bottle up and go, it tastes like whiskey. So they said, well, go down to the cellar, get another bottle. And bring another bottle up. Whiskey. Just to cut to the chase, Clay's son loved the Vevey wine so much, he drank all the wine and refilled the bottles with whiskey.
That is a big difference just on one side of the river to the
Yeah,
other.
it
that
is.
we could produce. That's hilarious. Y'all,
It's all
this is delightful, but it is 3:51, and we promised people we would at least try to wander.
All right,
Okay.
well, I'll tell you what. We're going to let them, the bartender also has to be the chief cook and bottle washer here. So I need to put this away. You let Amy, and this is Donna's.
Yes.
This is Donna's
Okay.
museum.
Yeah.
And
So-
almost in time for the rain.
Yes,
God.
now
Thank you
finally.
all day.
So I'm going to say goodbye to you all, and I want to thank you for taking the time to support the Victorian Barroom and to Musee de Venoge. And because without all of you, there is no history to be carried on.
Exactly. And thanks to Donna and Steve and Musee de Venoge for hosting us and everything we've always done together. This has been a very special partnership.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Dakota, maybe one day you'll get on camera. All right, I'm going to start cleaning up. Amy, the camera is yours.
Let's see if we can.
Oh man, that is the best part of this game.
All right, Ryan, you and Donna do the walk and talk, and you tell me if I need to move.
Okay.
We're very low tech here, folks. We're just on a laptop.
Okay.
So ignore all of the stuff in the rest of the visitor center. Ah, there he is. Is he made for period clothes or what, folks?
Yes.
Yes. All right. You.
It's like we're back at South Park City.
All right. Now, Brian, you tell me how I'm doing.
We're doing pretty good.
All right. So let's stop here and show everybody.
Yeah, so this is the backside of the cottage. This was built in 1828. 1828, French colonial style.
Want to stop and talk about the bread oven while we have good Wi-Fi?
For a demonstration.
Well, it's right for the time period. Yeah. So, folks, you can see the storm rolling in out here. We might not get too far. Once you lose us in the Wi-Fi, somebody say so in the chat. And you two keep looking at the chat.
We got cars around here because obviously we're bringing in filming equipment.
And I'm going to walk slow to try to keep the signal.
When we first saw the house, there were 3 rooms built onto it, and we discovered which ones were original, which ones weren't. Took off all the 3 additions, which were probably built around 1850. That's when the house changed hands, and you can tell by tax rolls that things changed at that time. But we had this would have been the kitchen and 2 side rooms. But when we did that, we revealed the actual true shape of the house, which is the French colonial pitch roof. We have a back to the firehouse, the hearth right here. Very simple, very easy house. The porch was called a gallery by the French, not a porch.
Oh.
But we call it a porch. And the second floor room is called a garçonniere. That's where they put the boys.
And you can see the traffic we've been fighting. Keep an eye on the chat. Sweetie, let me know if people say they're losing it or they can't hear us.
I don't think I'm seeing much. Nothing new.
Okay.
And we already have a
Oh,
store.
most face laptop for us to hear. Duckworth says still good. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody we got the win to compete with now.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. We can try to get up on the gallery or the porch. We can give it a try. Jacob had 41 acres when he lived here, and it extended all the way with the creek as a boundary and then up the road a little ways. Right now, we just have 30 acres.
It's pretty good though.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. And we have hay.
Well, and I can show people. You can show people where we were. I like that the buildings you've added you've kept them in the feel of the place. They look accurate.
The barn is the exact size of the original barn, which was further to the left. It was a bank barn. The foundations are over there, but everything else is gone. You would have been sheds. We have early photographs from the 30s and 40s that show outbuildings over there. The shed that was behind the house was right between those two trees. And that's what held one of the most important parts of the house. The hearth was in there. And the hearth was gone. We found it in there. We thought it was a bookshelf. My husband was looking at it and he said, a bookshelf. No, let's look up further. And we had the whole hearth, the whole mantelpiece. So that's what we really needed. And then we started taking it apart bit by bit, which you can see in the restoration video. We found all kinds of important parts that we needed to restore it. So we had all the big deals. So that was good. But let's see how far we can walk before the storm gets us.
Some wind noise. Still
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fighting weather and Wi-Fi.
The columns are chamfered. You see the porch is not done the way porches are usually done. We have some horizontal rooms here, which is we could tell because of the mortises in the porch supports here. This is the entrance to the second floor. Typical in a French house, you didn't have an interior stairway, you had an exterior staircase, so this goes upstairs. In the 1850s, it was moved inside because this is more of a southern style. It got cold around here, so nice to have an inside staircase. But when they did that, they cut up a big beam, a 15-inch beam. Ceiling fell. Things happened, and gravity took over. But we repaired all that. I don't think we should probably go. Do you want to try and go
We'll
in?
try.
Okay.
Folks, if you lose us, we apologize. We'll scurry back to the barn.
It's dark and we're set up to film in here. So totally different. We have stripped the house bare because Charlotte and
Santa Claus says Wi-Fi is good.
Oh, yay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Santa.
Charlotte and Jacob are moving out. And we got to leave the door open.
We should break the light.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing that I loved about what we're filming today, y'all, people in history, in living history, we tend to love the battles. We like to focus on wars. They're easy to define. I think the military structure provides a nice structure for organizing living history groups. There's lots of reasons people enjoy that. But we were talking about it as we got ready today, and we're like, what we're filming something about today? People moving. That's life, folks.
That's a battle.
First of all, that's a battle. But that's something we've all experienced. What are we talking about today? The day some guy and his wife moved. So that is why the place, normally there is a lot of recreated furniture in here.
Yeah, the whole idea was that it's bare right now.
Yeah, and we have, of course, the crane is still here, and this is all rebuilt. There was no hearth, no nothing. We just knew the location. We could tell that from the floor. So, and this is the mantle.
That's amazing. Yeah, let me drive that home, guys. The mantle from 1828 had long since been taken down, and they found it in a shed and put it back. That almost never happens. Usually if it's gone, it's gone. Yeah.
Firewood, yeah. And we had the paint analyzed, and it was originally gray. This particular piece of the mantle has never been painted, so we're just not going to paint it because that has evidence on it. But we know the size of the hearth, and we know from what the size of the hearth is, where just about everything in the room would have been, because you know the size of the bed, you know the size of the dry sink. You want an eating table, you want a few other things. So it's 9 people lived in this house in 1828. There were 10 that they had in their family, and 2 had already moved out and been married. And we know all this from his letters. So, that was a big deal when we found those letters, because that told us so much. It was an insight into what happened here in the house.
And the letters were where?
Indiana Historical Society.
Indiana Historical Society had the letters preserved.
Yeah, so life is good.
Let's show them the cabinet. I think that's such a great thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we can do this. We didn't want to hide what the house was. We didn't want to hide the structure of it. So behind here is you can see the original plaster, and you can see the brick infill plus the timber frame.
I think this is such a neat thing. You don't see this in a lot of restored houses where you've worked this in as a way to show people the interior.
Oh, yeah, you have. See, what attracted me was how they built the house. The people that actually built the house are the interesting ones to me, until I met Mr. Abold, and he's more of a people person than I am. So, yeah, hard to believe, I know. But seeing the life that was within the house. But I'm also seeing the life of the builders of the house because that's important to me. The craftsman that did this, the person that hewed the log, the person that sawed it. We have a accordion lathe upstairs. And to me, that's totally exciting. It's about as exciting as pit saws. We don't have any pit saw on wood here, if any of you are really interested. But
So you said, was the wood split, not
it
sawn?
was hand split.
So hand split, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's neat too about this is like we all think about log cabins, and so the knee-jerk reaction is they knew there was an old house under here, so naturally it was a log cabin.
Obviously,
Yeah,
it must
but
be.
it was
No,
yeah,
totally
timber
different.
framed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally different, something different. And you can see this kind of house in Louisiana and Wisconsin, anywhere the French settled. This style traveled with them.
Are there some of these left in Vincennes?
Not like this.
Okay.
They have a double gallery.
Okay,
There's a
right.
couple there with a double
Yeah,
gallery.
it was another French settlement in Indiana.
Yeah, and that was 17
Right.
when Vincennes was settled.
Yeah.
That goes way back. So yes, you're going to see this all over.
Ms. Duckworth loves the reveal shelf.
Oh, good.
Good.
It's usually full of stuff that you'd use in a house, but
Yeah.
the weavers are moving. And
Right.
by the way, I am no relation to the original weavers.
Right.
Our weavers came in through Philadelphia in the 1850s. This weaver, Jacob Weaver, actually came from New York State up by Kingston and moved down. He was probably part of the Palatine Weaver, the Palatine Germans that came over in the 1750s. She came here when Charlotte came here when she was 14 from Switzerland.
She's French Swiss.
French-speaking Swiss from Vaud. So there's two cultures again meeting.
Well, one thing I always thought the thing is neat is Jacob was born in 1776.
Right.
So he was born right there at the birth of the
Banner
United States in
year,
1776.
Yeah, so there's history in the family, there's history in a house, and they all join together, and we try and tell both those stories, and you all help.
Well, it looks like we get Wi-Fi in here, so maybe when all the
That's
stuff is back
wonderful.
in, we should try and do another live stream from actually inside the house.
We've never had Wi-Fi in here. This is maybe it's the rain.
Right.
Yeah, didn't know there was. I didn't know this either, Divina. Let's see. Before we go, I guess Donna, do you want to talk about what the house normally looks like?
Normally, it's a domestic dwelling with a bed, a kitchen table, a dry sink. The dry sink is over there. It's full of stuff and cameras, surrounded by cameras right now. Just a functioning household. And then we've made it over into a functioning tavern for our Tales from the Tavern series. Of course, this is a cage and it opens up and we have wonderful stuff inside there. And yes, they are actually drinking alcoholic beverages on set. It makes things go a little
Greases the wheels.
sometimes, because we do spend a lot of time. But we've got a few more series. We got one coming out, next Sunday? We're going to release the next one, which is a really good one.
Yeah. So don't forget,
Flatboating to New Orleans.
good stuff at Musee, Musee de Venoge. Look for them here on YouTube and see some of this great stuff that they've got coming out.
Well, before we go though, I think Donna, you've skirted over something that I think is one of the most interesting things about this house, which is that everything you all put in here is a reproduction so it can be used.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Repeat that.
Oh, yes. It can be used. It's a reproduction. Tilt down.
Thank you.
That's a little nicer looking.
Yes, thank you.
And let's get both in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's all usable and we use it and we like to use it. We know we're fortunate being in living history with you that we know people that make things
Mhm.
and they make it to our specifications and they're all accurate and we use this stuff.
So
There's
it
no
is-
ropes in this house.
There's no ropes.
No.
It is like it was back then, but as you know, most like historic home museums and stuff you go to, you're behind the ropes.
Don't touch.
Don't touch. That's the main rule, and as it should be when it's over 200 years old. But here, it is made by real artisans the way it was back then, but you can touch it because it's new, it's usable, and it's meant to be used. And so we really get to immerse here on a deeper level than we do at a lot of places.
I had a family one time that came in, a couple of little kids, and I was saying, it's all meant to be touched, to be used. And the one little boy said, ha, my chance. I touched just about everything. I had to say, within reason. But he was enjoying that. And so he got something out of it I didn't expect to get.
So I think that whenever this place is all set up again, we need to come back and do another live stream here. Now that we know that the Wi-Fi actually works.
Sometimes, well, maybe your Wi-Fi is better than mine.
Oh, and somebody said discovered your channel on the 1812 Living History group on Facebook. That's a great
Neat.
group. Love
Yeah.
it, love it, love it. Okay.
Well, they love cooking in
Oh,
the kitchen.
Nikki. Hey, Nikki.
Oh, Sticky Doty. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, any final words for everybody?
Well, we just
Goodbye.
yeah, we appreciate the opportunity to come here and to be a part of all this very much. Like I say, I think we rediscovered our why we do this here at Venoge. We hope that you guys will come out and discover or rediscover a love of history, not just from a standpoint of on the page, but from being able to experience it on a level that you don't usually get to do, and that is all because of Donna and because of what Steve brings here and all that, and we're just very appreciative.
And our board is all behind what we're doing too. We're all gung-ho on doing stuff and immersive stuff and teaching what we know and sharing. And no two better people do it than you all.
That's what it's all about. It's about people and it's about life. Just like we're always trying to drive home. So thanks for being here with us today. And I guess that's about it. I don't know if we're getting ready for supper or we're going to put the wool coats back on and start filming again. But yeah, we're about to get back to work. And we will see you guys next time.
You all have made these live streams so much fun. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Davina. Oh, Large Mac, thanks for coming again. Nikki, I'm so glad you made it in. Thanks, Russ. Everybody who was here, Santa Claus. Oh, Wendy Carr, awesome. Oh my gosh, y'all are great. See you soon.
I'll call that a success.
How many people did you get?
The